So you happen to own a Jeep and you want to upgrade your sound and you've done your research, you've Googled it, you watch YouTube videos, and you're asking yourself, is it worth investing in a premium solution from Alpine? Well, today we're going to answer those questions. We have our guest, Eric Brooks from Alpine, joining us today, and we're going to talk about all the things that make the Alpine solutions certainly one to consider. This is CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM, all about Alpine audio for Jeeps. And it starts now. What's going on, guys, and welcome to another CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu, and you are tuned into CMA Networks, where we talk all things mobile electronics. But on today's menu, we're going to be specifically speaking to Jeep audio. Now, if you looked enough on the internet and done your research, then you know Alpine will consistently pop up in your searches. Why, you might ask? Because Alpine, quite frankly, has been one of the brands that have really committed themselves to providing solutions for these platforms. And they don't just provide little plug and play speakers. No, no, no. They've gone deep and provided full turnkey solutions, which are truly plug and play. Now, I know what you're thinking. Alpine may be a little expensive. Maybe it's not what you're looking for. Maybe you think it's complicated. Well, we're going to answer those questions. Let's go ahead and bring on our guest, Eric from Alpine. Eric, welcome to the show. What can we expect to kind of dissect on today's Connected?
Hey Ben, I'm actually really happy we're having this conversation today. Jeep is very near and dear to my heart. I love Jeep vehicles, and Alpine actually is very invested into Jeep. We have invested a lot into the category. We actually do Jeep lifestyle events all over the country, where we really get to have these conversations with customers firsthand. So I'm looking forward to the challenge today, and hopefully we'll have some good answers for you.
Well, Eric, I knew we called the right man for the job today. But first, a quick break to show our partner, SiriusXM, to remind you why it's always an amazing add-on sale. And when we come back, let's dive a little bit deeper into the Jeep audio world with Alpine.
Hey, Paul here with SiriusXM, and I'd like to talk to you about attachment selling and why the SiriusXM product is one of the best things to add, especially since we don't trade dollars with any other category. I could go through all of this, but let's hear what some of our dealers have to say.
It's an easy add-on that takes, 10, 15 minutes if we're running an antenna, 1 minute if we've got an adapter to plug it into the factory SiriusXM antenna, and it's extra money, so no brainer.
I present it to every customer because a lot of customers don't know what all they can do with Sirius. They don't know what all content they could have. It just makes too much sense not to sell it.
It creates a different customer loyalty and customer security when you explain to them why it's a better experience. Just gets them back in the door, and then the next car, they're already asking for it again. So it just keeps selling itself. It makes more sense.
Well, there you have it. You heard from our dealers. Just remember some of the best practices. Make sure you have one on display so you can demo it. Make sure you're taking advantage of our rewards program, because if you're not taking advantage of that, you're leaving even more money on the table. Make sure you got our POP up on display. And other than that, just make sure you're recommending it.
All right, guys, welcome back to CMA Connected. Eric, welcome to the show once again. Now, this particular topic, Eric, I know is truly near and dear to you on a personal level, because if I'm not mistaken, you are a Jeeper yourself, are you not?
Oh yeah, I love Jeeps. I drive a Jeep. They're awesome.
Listen, I know you have that haircut because you ride with the top down often. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But you also live in Florida, so you can enjoy that top down weather. But you mentioned something really important, which I think is going to be paramount in this conversation, and that is the fact that as Alpine, you guys literally participate, support. You're part of that Jeep culture all across the country. And why is that so important to be out there with these Jeepers?
So, it's interesting. We started off this whole lifestyle event thing, a number of years ago. And what it's done is it's actually given us an opportunity to have firsthand engagement with customers that drive Jeeps. We can figure out what features they're looking for, what they're looking for in a sound system. So it's basically a focus group that we get to meet with every time we do a Jeep event, right? So we're not just selling product and installing product at these events. We're actually learning from the consumer, from the end user, what they're looking for. So it's actually helped us in development of product. We're now on our 6th generation of head units for these things. And they're implementing features that the customers actually want. So that's really the key. and what these lifestyle events are about. Plus, it helps us to make some fans, right? We make friends. We have community with these people, so they come back year after year to say hi, to buy more stuff, to just engage with us, and it's a really awesome community, the Jeep community. And anyone that's not involved, that has a business, they should get involved, because it's a great opportunity, just to number one, help your business, but to be a part of a great lifestyle.
Yeah, I really love the sounds of that. Now, I'm going to give you fair warning today, Eric. Today, I'm putting on a different kind of hat. I've been asked by our audience, the dealers, the enthusiasts, to ask the hard questions, right? We're not here to tell you that Alpine systems aren't great or new. We know about them. You've been out for a while, like you've said. You've had the opportunity to fine tune the little details. But I'm going to ask some hard questions because we want to really know what makes this tick and why these are so important to offer your customers if you're a dealer. So, for example, I'm going to start with the first question. When you're at these rallies and you're talking to these Jeep enthusiasts, when they're thinking about spending their hard-earned cash to upgrade their sound, what are some of the key important factors that they're thinking about?
Ben, that is a great question. We have some pretty in-depth conversations with these customers, and one thing that we can always lean on is they recognize the Alpine brand, right? So there's legitimacy in the brand, for the Jeep consumer. Jeep customers are willing to spend a lot of money on their Jeep, if you can convince them that it's the right thing for them, and if it's made for Jeep, which all of our Jeep products are. But there are really two customers that we have come through the booths. There's one that's looking to upgrade their technology, so they may be talking to you about a radio and why our particular radio is the right one for them. Or they're looking to upgrade their speakers and their sound system because they can't hear their speakers with their big tires or their roof off or things like that. So we have to kind of weigh out which customer it is. Most customers end up doing all of it. So that's the cool thing about it. They get hooked on the one piece, they end up doing the other down the road. So it's a pretty awesome scenario.
All right, Eric, I find that very interesting. So let's have those two conversations. Let's first talk about the guy or the girl for that matter that's maybe looking to change their source unit. Now, what do you think the driving forces are behind that? And let's be honest, the source unit is not the cheapest item on the menu. So help me understand how Jeep customers find value in investing in an Alpine replacement source unit for their Jeep.
So when it comes to the head unit, really there's a few things to keep in mind. Okay, so if they have a JK, from 2011 to 2018, right? So they now qualify for the large 9-inch weather resistant display. So they can have a serious upgrade in their dash. Number one, most of those customers, if they have a factory head unit, are struggling with Bluetooth, right? Their Uconnect doesn't work really well. It drops off the calls all the time, and they can't hear it. The system doesn't get loud enough. There's not enough oomph in that factory head unit amplifier. So we have a couple of opportunities here. Number one, we can upgrade the technology, give them wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. We give them a killer custom dash bezel, right, that has these blue lights kind of on the back, teal lights that match the gauge cluster that glow onto the dash, right? So it's got a cool factor. Many Jeep customers like to paint the accent parts of their Jeep, so this can do that too. You can pull the pieces off, paint them, and put them back on. So there's a customization factor that they can do. But number one, whether they have, stock speakers, it's going to improve the sound. It's going to give them more output. Technology, it's going to improve it, right? They're going to have wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. They're going to have an extended warranty. They're going to have weatherized capabilities, right? So many Jeepers, they get caught with their top off when it's inclement weather. The thing may get rained on. Many Jeeps, it's amazing, right above the head unit have a leak. So guess what? Those radios are getting wet all the time, whether they have the top on or not. So there are a lot of things that really tie into those customers. They want it to look cool. They want it to be reliable. They want it to feel like it's made for Jeep. When you look at our head unit versus, hey, look, you can buy less expensive stuff, but when you look at the buttons, the knobs, the fit and finish of our product, it is premium, and it's premium for a reason, right? So these are all things that customers look at. And in most cases, they overcome those objections when they see, touch, and hear these products. It's not based on price anymore. It's based on what's the best solution. And that's really the key for this.
Now, Eric, I love what you're saying here. Technology with the wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. Obviously, if you see the images, the look and the feel, the buttons, the tactile, everything about it is super GP, and I think people will really appreciate that. But when it comes to today's source unit market, and well, look who I'm talking to, another concern that I hear is, nobody is willing to upgrade and sacrifice any factory functionality. What is the case here when I'm changing or upgrading my source unit in my Jeep to an Alpine system?
That's a great question, Ben. So there are a couple of different platforms for Jeep, right? So the JK, pretty much don't have to worry. You're gonna retain any factory functionality with that platform, and you're just gonna have the ability to add on. So you can add front camera, rear camera, all the other stuff to it. So you can actually add on beyond what that platform for that factory radio could give you. Now with the JL and the JT, the Wrangler and the Gladiator, it's a little different, right? So they all come with a factory backup camera, which we can integrate into. But there are some features that you need to be understanding of that aren't retained, right? We don't have the capability of retaining, but in many cases we have the capability of replacing with better, right? So if they have a certain trim level, and not many of them are out there, but if they do, with a front camera, we don't retain that, but we can replace it with a multi-view front camera. If they have, all these units in the JL and JT, if they have Sirius XM built in, Sirius XM is a huge feature for these customers. It's embedded in the factory radio. So you need to sell them a new module and integrate in that new module. Not a big deal. It's actually another profit center for dealers. So that's an opportunity. But some of the things like the off-road pages, if you have more of the off-roading style Jeep, those things are embedded in the factory radio. We have solutions to help you gain back some of those off-road features, but those factory pages, they stay with the factory radio. Also the compass, that's embedded in the factory radio. So there are some of those things that you would lose on a limited trim package, but for the majority, all those factory systems we integrate in, they all plug and play, and they're good to go.
Really appreciate you breaking those details down. But it sounds to me, my takeaway, yeah, there may be a couple small things, but I think the important thing is that this new upgrade also provides solutions to enhance those factory settings to maybe even make it better, which I think is a great takeaway. The other thing I want to mention here is I did not know, and I'm learning this for the first time, that the factory radios aren't even weatherized. What are they thinking, Jeep? Of course, you want them weatherized. I mean, if I had the chance, I'd have that top down as much as possible. So that's another great add on I want to point out. Now, you mentioned the second part when I earlier asked you what are some of the concerns from these Jeep owners. And the other thing was the sound. In any open air environment, whether you're on a motorcycle or in this case, a Jeep, the moment you open air that scenario, you're going to lose volume, you're going to lose dynamics. So obviously, speakers are a big thing to improve that. So help us understand the Alpine options to upgrading the speaker system in these G platforms.
Yeah, Ben. So the approach that we took to the speakers is we actually developed a speaker that fits in many, many different applications, right? So whether you have a JK, a JL, a JT, all of the front speakers are going to work the same, right? So we have a component speaker system that's actually, we call it convertible, right? So it has a bridge so you can make it a coax. It has adapters for whatever different factory tweeter mount you have, right? And it's all directly plug in, right? Which is key. So, you're not cutting anything in the Jeep. And it's developed to work in the small enclosures that the Jeeps come with, right? So if it's a JK, our speakers go right into the factory housing. They're designed to fit in that small enclosure and give great output. If you have a JL or a JT, you're going to need to change out that factory box. There's some third-party manufacturers out there that make enclosures, which actually I dropped off a pair of our speakers at one of those manufacturers, and they used it in development of their enclosure. Fun fact, right? So that's cool. So we know our speakers work well in these boxes, and it's going to give you improved sound. Like you said, when we talk to a customer, they're like, "Hey, I can't hear my sound system if my roof's off." So they want more detail. They want the ability to get louder, and upgrading the speakers is a good way to do that. Now, keep in mind, you want to make sure that you're talking to customers about this that don't have the factory premium Alpine system, right? Because that is a fully active amplifier, so you're going to get into frequency response and some other things that, you would have to rewire the entire vehicle for. So for the purpose of this conversation, we're talking about non-amplified systems, right? And these are great ways to give you a sound that's at or improved above that factory premium sound system.
So if you're following along, we're kind of breaking out the different, concerns, objections, what have you, about upgrading your sound with some of these Alpine components. I think Eric has done a great job kind of explaining the design of the speakers that go into these Jeeps. But let's look at this. Let's back up two steps. When you're making a decision, you have a budget and you want to upgrade the sound. Um, if you're going to do the speakers first, Eric, my question for you is: A, will it sound better if I just add the speakers to my factory radio? B, how much of an improvement would it be if I use an aftermarket radio such as the Alpine solution? And then C, can I amplify to really get that best performance? What is the breakdown here?
Yeah. So as far as adding speakers to a factory head unit, yeah, you're going to get probably some better detail out of those. The speaker elements themselves are a higher quality material, but number one, they're weatherized, right? So what's cool about it is you add an ability to handle the elements that weren't even there in the factory component, right? So if you get caught with your top off, if it's extremely cold, snowing, whatever it is, wherever you're at in the world, these speakers are going to do a better job of handling the elements. Now, keep in mind, if you're not changing the factory radio, it's debatable whether or not you're going to get improved output because you're running the same power. But these speakers are very efficient. They're designed to work in these applications. And again, they're weatherized. So what we've heard from consumers when they upgrade their speakers utilizing the factory radio, they're very happy. They're ecstatic about it, and they come back and say they love it. So yeah, I think it's a good solution, and the fact that it gives you the weatherization that you didn't have before is even better.
So, in your opinion, Eric, once I've upgraded my speaker solution here, let's say I've done my front speakers, now I've got my rear speakers, I'm getting a little bit more volume. What a lot of customers struggle with is taking that next step, and that next step, I mean, is amplification. We're adding another amplifier piece. I already don't have room. Is Do I really need that kind of power? These are the kind of questions I'm hearing, so I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, so really the way to get better performance out of these speakers is to add an amplifier, right? So to give it a clean, pure signal that's amplified with low distortion. That way you can drive these speakers to the max without worrying about blowing them up, right? That's really the key. So a clean amplifier that's going to be able to drive these speakers with low distortion. That's really what you want. And our amplifiers for Jeep, many of them are weather resistant. So you can actually have an amplifier that you don't have to worry about it getting wet or mud or anything else on it. And they're very small solutions, so they fit in a lot of locations within the vehicle. And again, they're going to drive the speakers hard. They're going to drive the speakers clean. They're going to have wide dynamic range. You're going to have plenty of headroom with the speakers. So, whatever source you're listening to, you can get plenty of volume out of it. And really, that is that next step. And we have some great solutions for that.
Right. So, Eric, we've talked about source unit options. Now we've talked about speakers and amplifiers. Now, the biggest question is going to be, of course, what we all love, which is bass. Now, I've been on the forums, I've seen what people are saying about bass in Jeeps. I think there's two things that we need to identify here. Number one, open air environment, right? The moment you take that top off, it's always going to be a challenge to get those sub level frequencies. And the other thing is, have you seen the space in a Jeep? I'm sure you're not a stranger to this. Where on earth am I putting a subwoofer, for example?
Yeah, again, great points, Ben. Most of the consumers that we talk to that have a Jeep, they don't want to lose their space, right, for a sub. Now we have those customers that they may want to do some universal big subwoofers and all this stuff, big whatever, which is great, and we have those. You can do that. You can build some custom enclosures, or we even have prefab enclosures that are going to give you great output. The challenge that you mentioned, as soon as you take that top off, man, it's not loud in the car anymore. They'll still hear you a block away, but you're not getting that same sensation that you did when the top was on, right? So those are huge challenges to overcome. So what we developed specifically for the Jeep customer, because most of them don't want to lose their trunk, but most of them want to have great output, whether their top is on or off, are these under seat solutions, right? So we have in the instance of the JK, if you have a 4-door, we have a 10-inch sub that fits under the passenger seat, and this thing loads off the floor, man, and it sounds incredible. You would never believe it's only a single 10 in there, and you lose no trunk space. It is awesome. So that's one solution for the 4-door JKs. Now for the JL and the JT, we have a powered 8-inch subwoofer that's already mounted on a bracket that goes under the seat, and it just and again, it's developed to give you a nice round bottom end, right, in the music, and more detail in the sound, right? It's not going to be that, multiple subwoofer kind of bass, but it's going to give you a good premium, full, rich sound in your vehicle, right? So there are different solutions for that too. So we have most of the customers, the majority of customers that want bass upgrades, we have their needs. We have the solutions for them with our systems.
Well, Eric, I mean, I think you've answered every single question I've thrown at you so far. So I saved the hardest one for the end here, and I'm sure you're ready for it. But, after looking at the different options that Alpine has, after looking at, the source units and the feature upgrades and the weatherization and the power and the sound and all these great elements, at the end of the day, let's be honest, the Alpine kit, and I'm talking if you took, the source unit as well as the full package, it has a price tag on it. So now that you've kind of walked us through all, what do you say to customers at the end of all this when you've taken the time and you've explained everything and they're like, well, it's a little hefty.
Yeah. So Ben, look, there is a reason why our product has a premium price point. And I'm very upfront with them. You can find less expensive product out there, but the Alpine brand is known for sound improvement. If I'm going to change my radio, I should have the best sound I can. For reliability, you're gonna make an investment here, and this thing's gonna last a long, long time, right? And that's key. When you look at the fit and finish of the buttons, when they actually sit in one of our demo Jeeps and they touch and feel and see, press the buttons, they notice a difference between our fit and finish and our cosmetic design versus the other brands on the market, right? And it is a real difference, and that many times that alone is what pulls the trigger. So they hear better sound, they have upgraded feature sets that they're looking for. Wireless is huge. They want the wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. Weatherization, that's a big key factor. Now there's some other weatherized units out there nowadays, so then it goes back to the premium fit and feel. When they touch our buttons, these people spend a lot of money on their Jeep. They don't want to cut corners. They don't want to have to go back and buy another unit a year or two from now. They want to buy something that's going to stand the test of time. And thankfully, they recognize the Alpine brand is doing that, and they've seen our product be able to tell that story. So, that's kind of where it's at.
Yeah, I totally hear you. Hey, listen, I want to take this time to thank you for coming on today's Connect and sharing with us your knowledge and your experience with these Jeep customers in person. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you again on the next one. Thanks again, Eric.
Hey, Ben, thanks a lot. It's always a pleasure.
And that was Alpine's Eric Brooks joining us for today's Connected session. And you know what? I did my best. I asked the questions that I think Jeep owners and Jeep enthusiasts are going to ask. And I think Eric said this really well. There are a lot of different products available for Jeep. Does a 6.5 speaker fit? Yeah, you can make anything fit. The difference here is that the Alpines were designed and engineered to perfectly fit, whether it's the way it sits in the housing, whether it's the wire connections, which are truly plug and play, the overall look and feel of that, source unit replacement is unlike anything else on the market right now. And that comes with a price. So I think when it comes to this type of stuff, it's all about putting the features, the technology, and the value forward in the type of premium experience that you're going to have. And I think that's the big takeaway. If you want more information on any of the products covered on today's show, I do encourage you to check out their website, alpine-usa.com. That's it for this CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.